Now hear this, hear this. The way you know that you are beginning to die is that something begins to flow through your life, and that thing becomes the sustenance of others. Yes. When you discover that a little counsel that you give to a brother can save him from lust, a little advice that you give to a sister can deliver them from fornication, that your life becomes the reason why the life of others can be sustained, that even if they were destined for failure, they were destined for mistake, the moment they come in contact with you, your life becomes the excuse that God uses to deliver them. Your life becomes the very reason why God can stretch his hand of deliverance over their life and bring them out of darkness into his marvelous light. When you begin to notice some of these things in your life, it's a sign that you are beginning to subscribe to the death process. Yes, it's a sign. It's a sign. It's a sign. That's one of the ways we know men who are dying, is that their life becomes the reason why the life of others can be sustained. So you will now discover that many lives will be tied to your life because God can now bank on you. Yes, yes. That's the essence of death, that God can bank on your life. You can be trustworthy to the point where God can leave a man with you and he will not be scared that they will become something else. That's the workings of death. It's the workings of death. Have you not wondered sometimes? Because sometimes I wonder, God will begin to bring men who are suffering from the same thing that you are suffering from. For example, maybe you are suffering from lust at the moment. You have prayed, you have fasted, you have studied, you've done all you could to ensure that this lust is not satisfied. But then the thing is still just there, it's just around. So you are just trying to patch things and get by to ensure that you don't satisfy it and sin against God. But meanwhile, while you are still in that state, God begins to bring men who are having similar challenges. And by the time you minister to them, sometimes it can just be a little counsel that you gave to them. God will take it as an excuse to release life to them. So later on, they will come with their testimony of how God delivered them through your little utterance, your little speech. Meanwhile, you are suffering from the same thing. That's what death does. He can bank on you. He can trust you. That by the reason of your life, others can find deliverance, and is sure enough that you will not compromise. It's called the workings of death. It's called the workings of death. And by extension, the reason why God also do these things the way he does it is that by the time you come out of the death, by the time you come out at the other side of the place of death, God can now begin to use your life to raise others. He'll begin to use you to raise others. That's what the Bible meant when he said, if it dies, but if it dies, it will bring forth much fruit. So from your life, others will be raised according to that pattern, according to that dealings. Other lives will be raised, other lives will be generated from your life. What you started in the secret is now beginning to become a public move, a movement in the public that others can subscribe to, and they will find salvation. So more lives from your life, from your single life, other lives will be brought in. Other lives will be brought in. That was what the Bible meant in the book of Isaiah, where it talked about Abraham, where the Bible says, look on Abraham, look upon him. For when I called him, he was a single man, but I made him into a great nation. That was achieved by the protocol of death. When the Lord called the young man, he was alone. But at the end of the day, a nation was born out of his life. So as you stayed with God, as you kept on dying, day after day, you keep on dying, you keep on dying, a time will come where your life will become the fertilizer that other lives can generate from. So ensure that you die well. Because if you truly die, then much harvest will be made from your life. Much harvest. That's how we rise again in the kingdom. much harvest, much harvest from your single life. Other lives will be raised again. So God will be privileged to have more men because you died well. Yes, sir. I tell you this thing and I lie not. Heaven will rejoice that there are men on earth who will stand in the gap because one man decided to die. That's what Christianity is in the first place. We are all called Christians because a man chose to die. So by the time he died, his life became the excuse for other lives to be translated from darkness into light, because one man chose to die. It will be the same for you. To be the same for you. So you ensure, I say it again, ensure that you die well. Ensure. You know, sometimes death can be magical. It seems magical sometimes. This death that we speak about, it seems magical. And why do I say so? Sometimes you'll be amazed at the result that will be born out of your life when you fully die. You'll be amazed when you hear certain kinds of testimony that the Lord wrought out by your life. You will wonder, this thing, it seems magical. You will wonder that the level of harvest, the level of produce that is born out of your dying is nothing compared to the death in the first place. That was what the Bible spoke about in the book of Romans chapter 8 and verse 18 and 19, where he says, "For I reckon that the sufferings, the dyings of this present time is nothing to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." So when you begin to see the glory that the Lord will be bringing out of your life because you decided to subscribe to dying, you'll be amazed. When you hear certain testimony, you know that this one has nothing to do with you. The only contribution you made was that you just subscribed to the death process. You allowed the Lord to work death within you, and by the time death was achieved, your life became the reason why others can be brought to Him. Please ensure that you die. I am stressing this thing because this is how we will rise. You know, God cannot trust us enough to begin to place us in strategic places. Strategic, I'm not just talking about roadside kind of thing. I'm talking about strategic places where you become a voice over a people, a voice over a nation, a voice over a territory. God cannot place us in such places until we die enough. We die sufficiently. There is a sufficient kind of death for the glory that is expected to be bettered out of your life. There is a sufficient death for that dimension of glory. So we must die sufficiently. It seems as if God lacks men in our territory because there are no men, there are not enough men that are willing to die. Not enough men. Not enough men. So death is magical. But you see, God will allow it to be in that manner, that by the time the little testimony keeps on coming and you are amazed by those testimony, it will let you know that there is a possibility to even die more, so that more testimonies can come to the name of the Lord. More glory will be ascribed to His name. So this is one of the things that keeps us dying. Yes, it's one of the things that keeps us dying. So we are not worried so much about the death process, because we know that out of our dying, a life will come. There will be a breaking of a brand new day. That testimony will be changed. That the people that sat in darkness, indeed, they will see a great light in and through our lives. So we are not afraid to die, even though it seems hard sometimes, but we are not afraid. We are not afraid. All we do is that we trust the Lord for grace to die sufficiently. We are not afraid.